Welcome to the very first episode of Breaking 60.
Go in.
Right,
Boom,
right in the heart.
Big set here for Bryce Mooney. He wins. He's in. No pressure.
Not the Breaking 60 you're probably expecting. I'm not trying to shoot a 59. Not quite there yet, but I'm trying to reach PGA Tour average of 60% of fairways hit. I've done a lot of calculations on strokes gained, and at a 3 handicap right now, trying to get to scratch, I'm losing a few strokes off the tee box. Surprising given my length off the tee, but again, you have to be accurate just as well as hit it far to get a leg up on the competition. So as I work towards scratch, I'm going to prioritize hitting fairways and continue these episodes as I progress. So I'm going to identify a few areas here, utilizing the video, obviously, and Sportsbox Ai to find where my swing is going awry and what can help me in my accuracy. My ball speed, my swing speed, and my distance I'm not focused on right now because I'm just maintaining there. I compete on the course at roughly 190 ball speed, so I don't need more distance. I just need to hone it in and get a little bit more accurate. So you can see right now I'm at 47% fairways hit. I've got a little bit of room to go to get to 60%. So subscribe, join on the journey. We're going to learn a lot about the golf swing here and try to hit the ball more accurate to lower our scores. All right, I have a few lines drawn here, obviously, and the two metrics on Sportsbox AI I have selected is pelvis and chest thrust. Are my hips and my chest moving towards the golf ball, away from the golf ball? As I believe that is what is driving some of my wayward shots. All right, first things first, at address, let's get to shaft parallel here. You can see that these are obviously two different swings. One I played a draw, the other one I played more of a straight, slight fade. So you're going to see a little bit of a difference at the top. But for what we're doing here, it's good to have both down the line and face-on angles. Now what I like here on the face-on view is my width. That really helps me get speed. You can see how far away my hands are from my body. This really helps me efficiently produce club speed and to do so with little effort and to be stable in my positions with width. When you have a nice wide takeaway, you're really using your levers and the club to your advantage to produce speed rather than really a high effort muscle type of swing. So it sets me up to use efficient movements for some club speed. What I like over here on the down the line view is my club head is over plane. I have a tendency when things are going bad to bring that club head inside too quickly. So I like seeing that my hands are on plane and my club head is over plane at this point. Also, you see the angle of my club face matching the angle of my spine. This indicates club face is square at this point. And we talked about the hips and the chest. So you can see right now my hips are still back up against that line of where they started. So far, so good on the hips staying back. Now, as we move to left arm parallel, we're going to check back in here. Now, first to check in with the hands, you can see that if you drew a line parallel with my spine in between my left and right hands, it's just about under my right armpit, maybe between the middle of my sternum and my right armpit. If I'm getting picky, I like my hands to be a little bit more closer to the center of my spine. The farther my hands get brought back here at this point in the swing, the more stuck behind my hands will be on the downswing. Now, if we move down to the hips, you can see they are starting to very slightly move towards the golf ball, and you're going to see what that does throughout the rest of the swing. And probably my biggest area of improvement is where this ends up at impact. Over here on the face-on view, I've always struggled with swaying away from the target a little bit too much, and you can see I'm not outside of this line, but I would love it if my right hip at this point in the swing was starting to recenter back towards the target over this way. Just a little bit. I'm swaying just a little bit, which causes a late transition to the front side. You'll see at the top of my swing here in a second. Now let's get to the top of the swing when I get all of my energy into my front leg, which is right about there. I am fully into my front leg at this point. So we're at the top of the swing. Everything from here on forward is now starting the downswing. First things first, you can see there's now daylight in between this line and my back hip. And you can see this number here, I have moved 1.5 inches towards the golf ball up until the top of the swing. What this does is it turns the golf swing from a rotational movement to an up and down linear movement. When I move my hips towards the golf ball, it is giving less room for my hands to come through at impact at the same position they started. You can imagine if my hips moved a full foot towards the golf ball, I would have no room to bring my hands through the slot into impact to have a very repeatable move. If you look at the best golfers in the world, their hips stay exactly up against that back line all the way through impact. It allows for a very repeatable swing, and you're not having to save it with your hands. You can see at this point in the swing, my head has dropped from where it started. This is a symptom of me sinking into my legs and using the ground forces to produce speed. The golf swing is a rotational movement, but there's a lot of power to be brought up from the ground. And you'll see a lot of guys, their heads drop, and that's just showing that they're lowering their center of mass using the ground to produce efficient club speed. You can also see, I'm here just outside of the left starting line, the front starting line with my hips. So, I really like this spine angle being tilted away from the target. That's going to help make sure that it's more of a shallow club delivery. If your spine is straight up and down or slanted this direction towards the target, odds are you've got an over-the-top move, and that's can be a symptom or a cause of that move. So a quick check on that is you can see my hips have moved forward a little bit from where they started, but my head has not moved forward. This is going to help. This helps my accuracy. So if my head was on this side of the line, I would have a huge pull hook in my bag if both my head and my hips were moving ahead of the golf ball. But I like that my hips are slightly moving forward and my head is staying back. Now I want to take a second and look at the tempo from the Sportsbox Ai 4.9. Classic tempo is a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 on the backswing, 1 on the downswing. I have a very long, drawn out backswing, and this is something I'm going to dive into of how that plays into my accuracy. Is do I need to speed up my backswing a little bit to have a better tempo? I mentioned earlier that I wish I got into my front side a little quicker. You saw me stay on my back side all the way up until past left arm parallel. Those two things are correlated. If I can get into my front side sooner, I won't have to take as long of a backswing until I'm ready to start my downswing because I'm already into my front side. So getting to that 3-to-1 or closer to that 3-to-1 tempo is huge, and I really like that the Sportsbox Ai leaves no doubt in terms of what my tempo is. I don't have to guess it when that starts and when the transition happens. It can read that for me automatically. Now, the last thing I really like, and I've worked really hard over the last few years on this, is my timing in transition. You can see I'm fully into my left side, but my shoulders are still closed. This is something I do much better than I used to do. It helps with accuracy. It also helps with producing efficient speed. You'll see a lot of amateurs at this point, their left shoulder is about 45 degrees open over here. That's going to wreak havoc on timing and sequencing. This is one reason I'm able to swing nice and fluid and produce 190 ball speed, but it doesn't look like a ton of effort. It's because my timing between my lower and upper half is very efficient. So let's start the downswing here. We can get to left arm parallel, and you can see the amount of daylight I have created here between my backside and that back line. I have effectively moved my center of mass 1 inch to 1.5 inches towards the golf ball, which now my brain has to reconnect the dots to find the middle of the club face. I have to calibrate and make that adjustment with my hands and get my hands 1 inch to 1.5 inches closer from where they started. So you can see how that's going to provide a ton of inconsistencies from one hole to the next. And it's something that if I can get better at keeping my back hip up against this line, it will be much easier for my brain to connect the dots and repeat my swing and bring my hands back to where they started instead of having to calculate how much I moved closer to the golf ball throughout my swing. Now, earlier we talked about my head staying on this side of this line, not moving towards the target. You can see here, I have crept it forward a little bit. So this shot right here was a slight fade, which, you know, if you move your body towards the target, your brain knows that you're fighting coming over top of the golf ball. So you're trying to avoid a left miss, a pull hook. So, you know, these things are connected where my body drifted slightly towards the target. And so I had to hold that face off to prevent that left miss. Now let's get down into transition here. And you can see, I really like that my shaft is on plane at this point. Not steep up and down, not extremely shallow. I'm really trying to produce a neutral swing. I like that my shaft is on plane here. Now what will happen is as I get better keeping my hips back up against this line, it will move everything back, and this shaft should just be a mirror image of my plane line, which again will drastically improve my accuracy and fairways hit. Now let's move to shaft parallel right here. And you can see my shaft, or my face at this point, is up and down. A face that's perfectly up and down is considered square. It might be slightly open, tough to tell exactly, but nothing too much of concern here. Another checkpoint for me is my left hand within my hips at shaft parallel? And you can see my left hand is within my hips, my right hand is outside of my hips. This is going to produce a nice in to out swing path. I really like to be on the course at like a 2 to 3 degrees in to out swing. And it's something I'm going to look into connecting my Sportsbox Ai with my GC Quad. They have a connection option now. So something I'm going to look into, super powerful, to connect the Sportsbox Ai swing with a Foresight GC Quad data to match that data. Could be super valuable. Going to look into that. Stay tuned. I'll give you feedback on what I learned. But if your hands are back here and there's daylight between your left hand and your hips, that's going to make your swing path, odds are, out to in. You're going to struggle with a slice or a pull hook. This is just a good checkpoint for me that my hands are where they need to be at this point in the swing. Now lastly, let's get to impact, and I've got a Scottie Scheffler comparison here, so stay tuned. All right, first things first, Sportsbox Ai, they color the numbers at certain points in the swing, and this is impact. You can see my pelvis has moved 1.5 inches towards the golf ball, which they consider red. That is clearly one of my top priorities. Keep my hips back. It's going to help with my ball striking and accuracy. Conversely, the negative number of chest thrust, the negative number means my chest has moved away from the golf ball. This is the classic early extension, standing up into impact that so many amateurs experience. Now, I'm doing it on a 1 to 2 inch basis, so nothing astronomical, but you can see this correlation in these numbers. It's really cool, where my hips move closer to the golf ball, and to counterbalance that, my upper body moves away from the golf ball to try to give my hands enough room to hit the ball. Now, we talked about my left hips, my hips moving left towards the target. Not too worried about the hips. You can see Scottie Scheffler does a ton of this with his hips moving towards the target. It helps him keep a stable club face. But you can see that my head is flirting with that starting line, where his head moved drastically away from it into impact. I need to move everything back away from the target just a hair, and I think that will help me tremendously with accuracy and consistency. One thing I'm going to do to try to help improve that is a wider stance. So if we go back to my address, you can see my feet are slightly wider than shoulder width, maybe shoulder width. I think I can stand to widen my stance just 1 inch or 2, which will give me a more stable base to keep my hips within and prevent that sway. So something I'm going to work on this next month or two, widen my stance 1 inch or 2, give myself a more stable base. It should help me keep my head behind that left starting line and not drift towards the target quite as much, and hopefully increase that 47% fairways hit number closer to 60%. So if you want to watch this swing in slow-mo with no pausing, here we go. You'll see the ball on the left was a slight draw. It ended up on the left side of the fairway. And again, probably about 188 to 191 miles an hour ball speed. It went 360 yards. So here is my swing in slow-mo, and subscribe because I'll come out with the second episode where hopefully my fairways hit is higher than 47%.